¿A dónde está papi? 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 ¿A dónde está papi?
Welcome to the Monday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Monday. Thank you, Heat, for kicking things off with a tier 1 sub for 26 months. That is 2 years and 2 months till the day. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you for the support. Thank you. Hope you're doing all right. Michael Hassler, how's it going? Alio, how's it going? A-Bond, welcome. I think I got everybody. Whew. Always nice to see everybody in the chat. Having a slow day at work. I want everyone to enjoy slow days at work. Yep, 100%. 100%. Welcome, everybody. I wish there was more slow days at work. That's for sure. Oh, we got a cat. Thank you, Michael Hassler. Yes, join and subscribe the YouTubes. Indeed, there is a cat on my lap now. I guess she will be helping me do the news today. All right, folks. How was your weekend? My weekend was okay. We did quite a bit of cleaning. Um, we did quite a bit of cleaning for the long weekend. So this weekend we kind of mostly hanged out. I don't think we did. Yeah, it's too short. I don't think we did much. I'm gonna be honest. Update as to what's going on in the garden. We have cucumbers that are coming, and we have a really big pepper. So that's nice. Yeah, no better co-host than the kitty cat. It is too short. I wish the weekend was longer. Celebrating my birthday last Friday. Congratulations. Hope you had a good day. I want to grow what I eat. I mean, like, we have a couple things going. We will see what else we're going to add to it, but we'll see. All right, folks, we do have a few things. It was nice. Good to hear. Glad. We do have a few things to go through, so let's kick this off. All right, I guess we're going to start with a clip. I can't wait to start a grow. Sorry, folks. All right. We'll start with Michael Knowles, I guess. I like flowers. Someday I'll get land where I can grow them legally. I mean, like, there are places where you can have like small amounts, like a couple of plants for personal use.
Why did Gallup show a 7-point drop in support for same-sex relations of any kind? Because people are beginning to pull on the thread of transing the kids and realizing that because ideas have consequences, bad consequences come from bad ideas. And so they're going all the way back, and forget redefining marriage or whatever. You go all...
That's not how that works. Furthermore, support for, just in general, like, support for the LGBTQ plus community is pretty high. So I don't know, he's just fabricating this.
All the way back to the beginning of the sexual revolution. And you go all the way back to contraception. There were two cases, Eisenstadt and Griswold. First was Griswold in 1965. Then Eisenstadt comes around in 1972, the year before Roe v. Wade. And Griswold finds a right to condoms within a marriage. Where is that in the Constitution? I have no idea, but some libs on the court discovered that magically in 1965. But they said, but there is no right to condoms outside of marriage. Then 7 years later, the court discovers, oh, actually, there was more invisible ink in the Constitution, and actually there is a right to condoms outside of marriage. Okay, maybe you like condoms, maybe you don't like condoms. I don't know where you're going to find that in the Constitution. I think a lot of people are beginning to notice.
What? Bro, are you okay? Fam. Are you okay? This guy does suck. Is Mikey from the Daily Wire trying to be a Tucker? Nah, I think I don't know honestly who's worse. At least I guess like one thing I could say about Michael Knowles is that he's pretty upfront about what these guys are all about. Instead of like dancing around words, this guy's very explicit. It's called interpretation. It's called a living document for a reason. Exactly. But these people don't give a shit about any of that. I mean, in one, they'll twist themselves into pretzels when it suits them. And when it doesn't suit them, they'll just say the Constitution is supposed to be interpreted as is. Why would sex be in the U.S. Constitution? That's not. But the right to bodily autonomy and making decisions for yourself are.
That the contraceptive mentality is
We must police people's bodies, but also we're in favor of small government.
the beginning of the pride mentality. Because the contraceptive mentality divorces sex from the consequences of sex.
Wait.
It introduces the consequences of
hold
mentality.
on. Whoa. What? Contraception? Hold on. Let me get this. Let me get this right. Contraception. Contraception. Made the gays? Is that what he's saying? Hold on. I gotta rewind this.
Is the beginning of the pride mentality. Or you're going to find that in the Constitution. I think a lot of people are beginning to notice that the contraceptive mentality is the beginning of the pride mentality.
First of all, what the heck is a contraceptive mentality? That you don't want children? Or that maybe like after having 2 children, you're thinking like, okay, maybe I don't want a third, or maybe I don't want a second, or maybe I don't want children. Like, what are you talking about? What is a contraceptive mentality? What is a pride mentality?
Because the contraceptive mentality divorces sex from the consequences of sex.
Yes. That's what it's supposed to. That's why we have contraception. Something that has been around since like the beginning of time. The concept of contraception and even abortifacients have been around for a very long time. What are you talking about? Orgasms. Yeah, exactly. That's what he wants. Michael Knowles wants to protect us all from the consequences of orgasms, of sex, which are orgasms. How's it going this simulacra? Silly family planning is not negative unless Mikey here wants every woman pregnant. Oh, now we're getting closer. Okay, we're getting there, Alia. We're getting warmer. We're getting warmer.
It introduces a sterile sexual ethic.
What are you talking about? A sterile ethic? Because you want to have proper family planning? What does that even mean? Where are we getting this from? People don't want to have children for a lot of different reasons. People want to use contraception for a lot of different reasons. Sex isn't like, because he thinks or he wants to perpetuate the idea that the only purpose of sex is reproduction, which is not true. What? Yeah. Why is there? Yeah. Also, good question. Why is sterile being put in a negative connotation? There are people that are just sterile. That's just the way they were born. They shouldn't have sex? I guess those people shouldn't have sex because they can't reproduce? I don't understand. Mikey does not know about the sexual awakening. Yeah, well, no, he's criticizing the sexual revolution.
Which is exactly what gave us the Pride movement.
No. What? Contraception did not give us the Pride movement, okay? Gay people have existed since the beginning of time, okay? LGBTQ people have existed since the beginning of time. What are you talking about? Simultaneously, here's a question. If that is true that the contraception mentality or whatever the fuck that even means, if that's true, gay people can't reproduce. Or if you have meaning that if a man has sex with if a cis man has sex with a cis man, they're not going to reproduce. The same goes for a cis woman with a cis woman, right? Why would it matter? Other than like protecting yourself, obviously, from like STDs. It doesn't make any sense. He is assuming a lot.
There's no distinction here.
There is. Gay people use contraception. Straight people use contraception. Anyone who is a consenting adult engaging in consensual sexual activity can use contraception. What are you talking about? It doesn't matter if they're gay or not. Mikey and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Trump, possibly SCOTUS, want to legislate sex drives? Probably. If it was up to them, yes. If it was up to them, yes.
If you can't read between the lines, the conclusion that one draws is that condoms are kind of gay.
What? So if you, fellas, is it gay to use a condom? Okay, this is a real important philosophical question. Fellas. Is it gay to use a condom? Doesn't like me today? It's okay, we got it. At least I can see it. That is 100% stealth. It wouldn't surprise me. All of these Daily Wire guys are just super creepy. All of them. All of them. From Matt Walsh to Michael Knowles. Like, I bet, like, I've said this before, if a story comes out down the road that there was certain things on Matt Walsh's computer, it would not surprise me. And the same goes with this guy. Echo Triangle, what did I just came in? Yeah, apparently condoms are gay? I don't understand. I'll rewind for you.
The conclusion that one draws is that condoms are kind of gay. To put it as bluntly as possible, okay? And it's not a coincidence.
Like, I thought he, like, that laugh made it seem for a split second that he was being sarcastic, but he's not. This is the actual argument being put forth, that condoms are gay because condoms, and this contraception mentality, whatever the fuck that means, is divorcing sex from the consequences, but these are two different things. Having sex and wanting to have children are two different things? Question mark? And furthermore, no, using a condom or having protected sex because you don't want to, like, never mind like the whole, like, not trying to have children. If you're just trying to be safe and you don't want STDs, again, anyone can use fucking contraception. It doesn't matter. And you just want to be safe. That has nothing to do. That has nothing to do with being gay or the Pride movement. I just want to bang my head against a wall. What? Yeah, I know. Like maybe if you bang your head against the wall enough times, it might make sense. This might actually start making sense. In 2018, Knowles reiterated his opposition to same-sex marriage and opposed attempts by some conservative movement to recognize such unions. Yeah, I know. And ironically enough, this guy has played a gay character in like an old, I think it was for Film Club or something like that. I wish these guys would just hooked Time, Fire, and Brimstone just yelled at everyone whose sex is going to hell, just do it already. Oh, go old school. Gotcha. Go old Time, Fire. Oh, like the Westboro people. Like the Westboro people, the people that show up to freaking schools. The people that show up to like universities with those signs. God, those people are freaking cringe. I remember a very long time ago, two of those people came to FIU, to the FIU campus, and yeah, they just got like perpetually dunked on. They just literally got there to be dunked on. But this was a very, very long time ago. Oh no, these people, well, him in particular are very, very explicit. As Alio just pointed out, he is very specific. He's very specific. At least he is. Not the other. The others are cowards, or more cowardly. But he's very explicit. It doesn't get more explicit than, for the good of society, transgenderism must be eradicated from public life entirely. It doesn't get more explicit than that. So yeah, the guy's intentions and hatred are pretty on display. At least this guy. I can't say the same for the other cowards, the other spineless cowards who don't say what they really want to say. But yeah. Disgraceful, we apologize to Greta Thunberg and our viewers. Knowles did not apologize, and Fox stated there are no plans to have him on the air in the future, but the channel welcomed him back shortly after. Imagine thinking that like Fox would have any principles. Anyways.
Female conservative influencers, noticed by NBC News, are beginning to pick up on that.
For the record, I don't really want them to grow spines. I want them to go away. Honestly, same. I mean, it would be easier to make them go away if, like, more people really understood who these people are. Because a lot of them are cowards. A lot of them are cowards. A lot of these, like, far-right, like, Christo-fascist, Theo-fascist, whatever you want to call them, commentators and pundits and politicians are just fucking cowards. They're just cowards. But yeah, now Michael Knowles making the argument for condoms being gay because apparently it removes the consequences of sex. It relieves you of the consequences of sex. Question mark? So therefore, this makes sense and pushes the Pride movement, question mark? To which he briefly summarized his position by saying, condoms are gay. No. No. Wanting, like, and like, this is kind of like sinister too, because like, the teaching of safe sex practices, no matter, like, again, anybody can use a freaking condom, okay? Not just like straight people, gay people, like trans people, like like anybody can use a freaking condom, okay? So the fact that he's basically saying that you should not use a condom is very sinister, because like these people don't want you and don't want kids and young people to learn about safe sex practices. Which is really, really, really freaking weird. And you can't simultaneously say that you want to disassociate the consequences or whatever, but if you're using condoms to protect yourself, isn't that taking ownership? To be honest, I don't think people shouldn't have sex until they're prepared to deal with the consequences, whether it's a kid or an abortion. Right, and like normally we would try to do that by like just teaching, just by teaching and giving the proper information, age appropriate, of course, as you know, young adults start growing up. As kids start growing up, you want to make sure that they have the proper information that is appropriate for their age, so that they're not abused. So they know what safe sex practices are, and they know what the consequences are, and how that they can protect themselves. It's not that hard, but these people don't want that. Knowles realizes he's a wayward Catholic, so he's a Christo-fascist, and this is not a very like controversial statement to say. That you just want to make sure that people know how to that people like practice safe sex practices, or that people use safe sex practices or whatever. People wonder why Republicans have more sex scandals than Dems or independents. Yeah, because they keep that information, and they're never taught any of this. That's why you have like a lot of teen pregnancies with in rural areas. Alio with the 14 biddies, thank you so much. Oh boy. Talk about what's in the mind of the conservative intelligentsia. Condoms are gay. You heard it here first, folks. Biddies get kitties, true. Well, I don't know where the cat went. Maybe I'll bring her on before I go. Ah! Explosion of Vaquita emotes. That's what I like to see. Folks, if you follow the channel, you can get those emotes for free if you haven't done so. Alright, let's take a quick
traveled to
A quick shift of gears, yeah?
Monticello with the kids. I got a little couple hours of being too pedantic with them, which was inevitably going to happen. And we ended up talking about the Lost Cause and the Dunning School, and my kids' eyes glazed over. But history is important, folks, and I apologize to my kids for that. And here is a good example of why it's very important to teach people.
Honestly, I don't know. What would you think if you were a conservative listening to this? Like Michael Knowles? Like I just don't even know how I would react. I would be questioning like what but then again, like, to be conservative is to not question these things. And whatever gets, like, a weird, like, nod of approval is the only thing that you're supposed to kind of just, like, nod along. So I don't even know, like, how would I even react to it? But anybody who has some kind of, like, rational sense would immediately question as to, like, where these talking points are even coming from. It's just bizarre. It's just bizarre. A-Bond with the tier 1 sub for 8 months. Almost a baby, true. It's very odd. Because, like, I mean, even as a conservative, like, what do you make of this? Condoms are gay? How? Even as a what if you're already on your like second or third child, and you just don't want to have children anymore? It just doesn't make any sense. Like, contraception is used for so many different things, not only just to like do proper family planning if that's what you want to do, but also to protect yourself and your partner. No, they're not listening. It's kind of like par for the course to be a conservative. Breaking, Fox gets its latest shocking, terrible news that's related to Ray Epps, the January 6th insurrectionist. Despite never aspiring to sue for the network for spreading conspiracy theories that he was a secret government agent. The idea became incredibly popular in MAGA circles after the insurrection. Oh, so they're getting sued again? for what? Defamation?
History, real, actual history.
But they know the story, and they know the playbook that they always have. Lie, deride, besmirch, make innuendos, tell flat out untruths.
Remember, folks, when it comes to conservatives, every accusation is just a confession. To lie, deride, besmirch, these are all things that they do. To tell flat out untruths or lies, you mean? He just said that. It was kind of redundant. That was a bit weird, a bit redundant, but like, that's what conservatives do.
Because you quoted Hitler, you support Hitler.
I mean, no. It depends on the context. If I'm quoting Hitler because I'm doing some kind of like, I don't know, history report or something, that doesn't mean I support Hitler. If I quote Hitler to show my support and I happen to be in a hate group, yeah, then that might be a sign there. Which black politician is the GOP wanted black friend this year? This is Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson at a Moms for Liberty summit.
I guess every history book in America supports Hitler now. They all quote him.
No. If you're quoting Hitler because you're making up like a history lesson to teach about World War II and the Nazis, that is completely different. He might be the next governor here. I'm so sorry. It is different than your or than the organization that you're supporting, which is Moms for Liberty, just quoting Hitler. In the affirmative. These are two different things. A history lesson, or teaching about history, or teaching about the Nazis, is very different than quoting Hitler in the affirmative.
And here's the thing, whether you're talking about Adolf Hitler, whether you're talking about Chairman Mao, whether you're talking about Stalin, whether you're talking about Pol Pot, whether you're talking about Castro in Cuba, or whether you're talking
Donald
about
Trump.
a dozen other despots all around the globe, it is
Donald Trump?
time for us to get back and start reading some of those quotes. It's time for us to start teaching our children some of those quotes.
Wait, but if you teach kids about like Hitler and the Nazis and whatnot, is it aspirational? Because if so, then don't. Right, it's in the affirmative. Like that's what he's trying. He's trying to like perform Olympic levels of mental gymnastics to try to justify Moms for Liberty. That's what he's doing. He's running defense for them.
It's time for us to start teaching our children about the dirty, despicable, awful things that those communist and socialist despots did.
Ah, yes. So now we're shifting. Do you see how that subtly just started to shift really, really, really smooth? So we started talking about like the Nazis, whatever, and we just yes, and then we slide it, and boom, bait and switch. Now we're talking about the left. Or as The Onion called them, Moms for Preservation of Anglo-Saxon Bloodline and the Increasingly Marginalized Population. When The Onion hits, they don't hold back. No, they don't. Jesus Christ.
In our history.
Oh!
Can we
we
teach
should
kids
say,
about Castro? I mean,
this
I'm okay
is-
with that part.
North Carolina Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson defending the Moms of Liberty folks. In fact, speaking to Moms of Liberty.
Yeah, like the fact that like this dude is gonna start saying like, oh, we should teach them about. It was very interesting how he could immediately like backed off the whole like Nazi stuff because like they know the last thing that they want to do is teach actual history. The last thing that they want to do is actually teach history. So I guess there's a video or something with Cenk, but I haven't seen it yet. From the Majority Report.
Event in Philadelphia, trying to justify they were not. It's one thing to quote Hitler as a warning. It's another to say like we're going to follow his program.
Right.
I mean, the newsletter didn't.
Right. Like this is exactly what I was saying. Like I completely jumped the gun. I guess I missed this part in the broadcast, but it's one thing if you're quoting Hitler as like a history lesson or whatever. You're trying to teach a class, a history class, and it's another in the affirmative, like these Moms for Liberty people are doing.
Didn't have like this is bad context. It said he alone who owns the youth gains the future, and it was an Adolf Hitler
And then
quote.
they later said, we forgot to include the condemnation of Hitler when we quoted him.
Yeah,
And-
things get lost in the printing press.
But I think Hitler is actually the wrong metaphor. These are clan people. These are literally just
Yeah.
descendants of the clan. It's homegrown here, but like, where do people think the clan went?
I mean, they call it.
It went a little bit
Planned
under the water, and now they regrouped, and now it's Clan.
It's Daughters of the Confederacy.
Exactly.
Too.
Moms of the Confederacy.
Moms of the right.
Moms
people
of the
should see this.
Confederacy.
It's
That's hilarious. I like that.
this is the point where they went. This is an evolution. You go from being a plantation owner, a slave owner, to supporting that system, and then when you lose the Civil War, that lineage has to go underground, literally under a hood, so they're not identifiable, but they are maintaining as much of that system as they can. They can't actually have you enslave people, but they can disempower people. They can maintain a second-class citizenry for those people. And then it submerges a little bit more and it comes back out. Maybe it's in the form of like Jim Crow laws, and it's in the form of you know, a Supreme Court that disempowers people politically.
Like
and
this
then
one?
as you get to the 60s,
You mean like this one? Like this Supreme Court?
and there's legislative fixes for some of it, then it goes, you know, then it just becomes sort of a social thing, or maybe a sort of like a proxy thing, as Atwater said. You know, we started saying busing and we didn't have to say the N-word. We started saying taxes, we didn't have to say the N-word, and this strain continues. And now we're just in another period of it popping its head out of the water in the same way that it did in the 100 years ago, frankly, coming out of Reconstruction. These are not snapshots. These are continuation. And sometimes there's an ebb and sometimes there's a flow. But like,
Hey, Lucian, how's it going?
the tide goes in, the tide goes out. The waves keep coming.
Yeah, exactly. Like Nancy McLean in Democracy in Chains, the discussion of the Virginia oligarchy and being like, oh, how are we going to respond to this school integration stuff? Well, it's voucher systems, it's stuff like that. And yeah, it's just like, it gets a little bit smarter and a little bit more, they figure out new ways to present in polite society, but it's the same old thing.
And to be clear, you know, the idea that there would be a black man like the lieutenant governor here, who is whose political fortunes are tied to essentially telling white people that they're not racist, that there's no white supremacy. And to be clear, look, we've talked about this. Eddie Glaude is a great writer on this, and we've interviewed other people who's talked about this. On some level, we all practice white supremacy in this society. We all do. And on some level, there is a racist element to much of what we carry around with us on any given day. Mm-hmm. And the whole challenge for a society that has been literally built upon the spoils of racism is, how do you evolve forward? And that involves, like, you know, questioning yourself at any given point, or, you know, testing yourself at any given point, or, you know, having an awareness. Then it's going to be uncomfortable at times, and it's going to be, you're going to be unsuccessful at times and whatnot. But what that guy does is basically tell an audience, like, you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, racism is fake. It's all something the other black people are saying as an excuse. And also, here's an actual quote from him at a church in 2021, not on race, but there is no reason anybody anywhere in America should be telling any child about transgenderism, homosexuality, any of that filth. So, I mean, yeah, fascists and Confederates, neo-Confederates can be black.
Yeah, and I just, to what he does, or what your definition of systemic racism, Sam, is the one that needs to be repeated all
Thank you for the follow, Johnny Bananas. To my other comment, another video. It was another video. My brain drifted off for a few minutes. Because I saw some others talking about Jank defending TYT. Gotcha. North Carolina is right for this. 1 in 3 adults never graduated high school. Yikes. Whew. Hello, welcome.
All the time, because making racism about personal individual pathologies or morality, I mean, and in some instances these people are like beyond the pale and you have to call it out, but speaking about it as kind of like an ever-present smog in our society that we're needing to blow away as time goes on is much more productive. Making it about some like a personal, individualized issue helps racists, because like it gets these reactionaries defensive, and then you have someone like the lieutenant governor come in and say it's all okay. See,
it's natural, actually.
Yeah,
your
exactly.
community being disinvested in, and
Right.
look at my success as proof.
Right. North Carolina is my home state. Oof. I think Michael Hassler is there too. Switching gears. Let's see. I think we should probably do this one, the climate recap.
Which day is officially the hottest in recorded human history? And which country just agreed to a death to nature swap? It's time for this week's climate recap. Hit the subscribe button below if you want to stay updated on the climate crisis and clean energy transition. Many parts of the world hit new heat records thanks to a combination of the El Nino and climate change. In fact, July 3rd was globally the hottest day in recorded human history, according to the U.S. National Center for Environmental Prediction. It beat the previous record set in August 2016. That's wild, because it's just the beginning of the summer right now. On the flip side, climate change-related lawsuits are also heating up. Multnomah County, Oregon, which includes Portland, recently announced it's suing several fossil fuel companies, the American Petroleum Institute, and the PR giant McKinsey & Co. over misleading the public about fossil fuels' impacts on the environment. That lawsuit premise isn't unique, but what is unique is that this case specifically blames the defendants for an extreme weather event that climate studies have shown wouldn't have happened if not for climate change: the 2021 heat dome. As a reminder, the deadly heat dome overtook the Pacific Northwest in the early summer of 2021, causing temperatures to reach as high as 116 degrees Fahrenheit. It for sure killed 69 people and caused major property damage. I said for sure because a New York Times analysis found that 600 more people died in Oregon and Washington during that heat wave than would have been typical. The Oregon County is seeking more than $1.5 billion in damages from the API, Peabody Energy, ConocoPhillips, Occidental Petroleum, Koch Industries, and McKinsey & Co. The fossil fuel companies are hoping this case will get thrown out.
That's a problem with saying a day was hot, the hottest day ever. The next 3 days were even hotter. Yeah, promptly those records are broken. You're right. Like I think it was it was those 3 to 4 days all broke records, one after the other. And I suspect that it's only going to continue, unfortunately.
What do you think of the county's argument?
But yes, you are correct.
Let me know, especially if you live in the Pacific Northwest. The Supreme Court has made a lot of controversial rulings over the past few weeks. I want to talk about one that has an environmental justice impact. The conservative supermajority sided with Arizona 5-4 in Arizona v. Navajo Nation, saying that the U.S. government is not required to take affirmative steps to secure water for the tribe, because that provision is not explicitly stated in the Navajo Treaty of 1868. According to the judges, it's not their job to rewrite a, in my opinion, racist treaty written over 150 years ago. If the federal government doesn't have the rights to farm or mine land in indigenous territory, it also doesn't have the responsibility to make sure the people on the land have access to drinking water. This despite the fact that the Navajo Nation was there before colonizers. Furthermore, the Supreme Court decision makes it even more difficult for Indigenous people to have a voice when Colorado River water allotments are decided between states. The previous Colorado River water agreement we talked about in an earlier recap excluded the tribes from water allotments, and the court rulings makes it impossible for the Navajo Nation to sue the Department of the Interior to make sure they're at the table in the next...
That's so messed up. That's pretty messed up.
Water negotiations 6 years later. Despite this setback, the Navajo Nation representative said the tribe will continue to fight for its water rights. The Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, announced $7 billion of the Inflation Reduction Act's Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund will go towards up to 60 residential solar grants to provide access to clean energy to low-income and historically marginalized communities. The EPA said the grants will guarantee savings of at least 20% on electric bills for households that benefit. This Solar for All program was added to the IRA by Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, who refused to support one of Biden's recent federal position nominees if the program wasn't started quickly. Applications will be open to states, municipalities, territories, and tribal governments through September 26th. What do you think of this program? Let me know in the comments.
It's at least
Wish
better
you could
than
listen to
nothing.
the recaps in podcast format? I've got you. Check out the climate recap.
At least it's at least Bernie's doing what he can. They're building literal water parks and housing subdivisions. That's wild. That's wild.
Wherever you get your podcasts. More info can be found in the description. Now back to the news. The U.S. car company Ford just received the largest federal loan any car company has received since 2009. The conditional $9.2 billion will go towards 3 new Blue Oval SK electric vehicle battery manufacturing facilities in Kentucky and Tennessee, so the domestic battery manufacturing industry can catch up with China. Blue Oval SK is a joint venture by Ford and the South Korean battery giant SK. Ford has a goal of producing as many as 2 million EVs by 2026, up from about 132,000 it produced in 2022. All the vehicles with batteries produced in U.S. factories will also qualify for the $7,500 consumer-based tax rebate in the Inflation Reduction Act, which is meant to boost the adoption rate of EVs and U.S. manufacturing. Meat production is arguably the largest carbon-emitting part of the agricultural industry. Yet, Americans in particular love eating animal products. So how can we remedy these two realities? Maybe one of the solutions lies in lab-grown meat, which requires less water, chemicals, and land use than farming. Recently, 2 companies, Outside Foods and Good Meat, received U.S. federal approval to sell their lab-grown chicken products to everyday consumers. Because the process to grow meat is still expensive and it will take time for customers to warm up to this new option, both companies will start by supplying chicken products to a partnering restaurant. Would you try lab-grown meat? Let me know your thoughts below. As companies are being asked to reduce their environmental impacts more, we're seeing more companies lie about how environmentally friendly their operations and products are. This is called greenwashing. Now we're starting to see regulatory bodies catch up with this trend. The International Sustainable Standards Board, or ISSB, of the International Financial Reporting Standards Foundation, or IFRS, recently issued new sustainability and climate reporting standards companies must follow starting in 2024. The foundation is a nonprofit organization governing international accounting rules, and their guidelines are followed by more than 144 countries to create a uniform language for financial accounting. The U.S. is not one of these countries because, like with seemingly everything, we have our own body, known as Generally Accepted Financial Practices, or GAAP. But the U.S. is actually currently contemplating switching to IFRS instead. Anyways, the ISSB, which is again the sustainable arm of the IFRS, hopes that countries like the UK, Japan, and China will quickly adopt its new financial disclosure standards to make it harder for companies to greenwash themselves. The standards define how companies should measure direct and indirect emissions and require companies to audit their emissions data and have a climate strategy that's adopted top-down. The European Union is currently creating its own emissions disclosure standards, and
I mean, it's not bad, but like, how exactly is this going to affect the behavior of companies, right? Can we just get NASA or Musk to make out a trip to asteroid belt and tow a nice asteroid back to Earth and smash it into Nevada or something? Yeah, we've already tried. Somebody already made that.
ISSB hopes that it will align itself with its new standards. Do you think these standards will be used and enforced? We have 2 news stories out of Portugal to round out this week's climate recap. First, Portugal agreed to allow Cape Verde, a small archipelago nation off West Africa, to use its 140 million pounds of debt it owes to Portugal to invest in Cape Verde's environmental conservation and climate mitigation efforts. For context, Cape Verde used to be a Portuguese colony, so its debt is kind of like how colonialism is persisting to this day. Many colonizing countries aren't comfortable with the idea of just allowing debts to go away, so this debt-to-nature swap idea is a compromise growing in popularity to make up for the climate impact disparity between creditor and debtor countries. Put another way, many in-debt countries are developing ones that are being heavily impacted by climate change despite having little impact on the problem itself. These nations are too busy paying off wealthy nations and institutions like the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund to actually invest in better infrastructure or clean energy, making them even more vulnerable. So if the creditor entity agrees to allow the in-debt country to use its money, it would have been used to pay off the debt, to instead reduce its emissions or prepare itself against a warming climate, it's kind of a win-win and helps it break the cycle. Right now, Cape Verde is 80% dependent on imported fossil fuels. This debt-to-nature swap money will go towards the country's goal of spending 520 million euros on wind, solar, and green hydrogen by 2030. What do you think of the debt-for-nature swap concept? Let me know. On the Portugal side,
I mean,
it
like,
recently
but we
announced
can
it will
also
more
just, like, I don't know, help them too, right? It's kind of like our responsibility. That's just me. If you're a big tree, we're a small axe ready to take it down. The shitty companies gotta go. True. Climate change is getting after them, we'll follow. True. And these companies are so sneaky, they got an army of lawyers and find loopholes. Right. Like, unless, like, there's some real, like, enforceable way of, like, forcibly changing the behavior of these companies or eliminating certain industries like the fossil fuel industry, it's not really enough. Yeah, no doubt it's better than the status quo. It's better than just doing nothing. I'm just saying that, like, we have the responsibility as the perpetuators of and main drivers of climate change. We have the responsibility.
more than double its 2030 solar and green hydrogen goals to speed up its domestic clean energy transition. Portugal plans to be carbon neutral by 2045, which involves shutting down its gas-fired power plants by 2040. All European Union countries are required to send updated climate and clean energy goals to Brussels, so this announcement was part of Portugal's revised plan. Now the country wants to have almost 43 gigawatts of renewable energy installed and 5.5 gigawatts of green hydrogen produced by 2030. And that was your climate recap for the week. If you found this information useful, please like and share this video so more people can see it. Remember to talk about the climate crisis every single day and to support your local news organizations. Thank you so much.
Nice. The fossil fuel industry is going to eliminate itself soon enough. Is it? And will it be soon enough in the sense of it being fast enough before the damage has already been done? That's kind of my question, because, like, if that was the case, then, like, why are we still approving new fossil fuel projects that lock in these things for decades to come? We don't have that. We don't have those decades to be eliminating to be emitting more fossil fuels. So I guess it's like a two-part question. Like, is it really going to be? What do you mean by, like, soon enough? And is it going to be soon enough? Because, like, we need to stop now. If we were to have any chance, and there should be no new fossil fuel projects or anything like that of the sort. But that's not really what's happening. You know, we as a species have to find some kind of harmony with the planet, or the planet is going to kill a lot of us. Yep. And it's so unnecessary, too. Because it's not like we don't it's not like we don't have the technology. We have the technology available to us. It's not like we can't do it. Or at least we can't, like, move in that direction. Yeah, we have the like technology and the money. I mean, like, we can't. It's just we don't. I think it will. The more they try to extract now, the faster they will kill themselves as demand drops quickly to near to is it though? I just don't see it. I just don't see it. Maybe that might be the case, but I don't see it. I think that they want to expand, and they continue to push for more fossil fuel projects that do lock in fossil fuel emissions for decades to come. I mean, we don't have that. We don't have that luxury. Even if that was the case, like they extract, the more they extract, the faster the fossil fuel industry will die off. That still means that there's decades more of this nonsense, which we don't really have. All right, let's switch gears. Again, I know we're kind of going all over the place, but
things are going so bad for Florida Governor Ron DeSantis on the campaign trail that analysts within the Republican Party are now recommending that he just pull himself off the campaign trail altogether. Now, that doesn't mean that they think he should stop campaigning for president, right? They don't want him to end his campaign. They just want him to go away for a little while they try to figure out what the hell is going so wrong for him. As one strategist puts it, she said, Governor DeSantis cannot get within striking reach of Donald Trump, and every time he makes a campaign stop, voters seem to step back. So, to put it another way, which is what I've been saying for over a year now, every time Ron DeSantis goes out there and meets people, even if they had supported him, those people are now less likely to support him after meeting him personally, after having those one-on-one interactions. People walk away and say, yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. And what's really great, by the way, I was on vacation all last week, so it's taken me a little while to get caught up on the news, but one thing that was actually brought to my attention was that a clip of me from Ring of Fire was actually used in an online DeSantis campaign ad. And in that ad, I was talking about, well, I wasn't in the ad, I didn't approve it, but they did show a clip of me where I explained that Ron DeSantis is, of course, scarier than Donald Trump because DeSantis has succeeded.
Yeah, like, obviously DeSantis is scarier than Donald Trump in the sense that he's more, comparative to Donald Trump, he's more capable. He's more capable. Fossil fuels are too profitable for them to just abandon it. Yep. People don't realize how it takes barrels and barrels to even manufacture a car. Yep. DeSantis is the living embodiment of the Sith Lord. True. True. Trump is Sith Master? I don't know if I would call him Sith Master. I mean, like, maybe. Meatball Ron. I like that.
Where Trump has failed. Now, the reason I'm even bringing that up is because I have no idea how far back they had to dig to find that clip of me saying, oh, DeSantis is a scary candidate. Because if you've been paying attention to these videos over the last, 2 or 3 months, I have said the exact opposite. DeSantis is no longer a scary candidate. DeSantis has proven that he is in fact a failure on the campaign trail, which is why ever since the day he announced that he is officially running for president, his poll numbers have gone down, not up. And that is another thing, by the way, in these multiple reports that have come out, where you have Republican strategists and analysts and even those close to DeSantis saying his polls are going in the wrong direction. But they think they got an ace up their sleeve, right? So while they want DeSantis himself, they want Ron off the campaign trail. They want another DeSantis instead to take his place. And that DeSantis is Florida's First Lady, Casey DeSantis, Ron's wife. They believe that she is likable, she is approachable, she is personable. You know, she's a good person, they think. She is the kind of person, the kind of face to put out there on this campaign to show people, hey, it's okay, come on back. Look, we're not creepy and weird. The whole DeSantis family isn't a bunch of weirdos. I'm totally normal. That's what they're hoping to do. And this coming Thursday, Casey is going to be in Iowa with the governor, Republican governor of Iowa, launching what they're calling Mamas for DeSantis.
Oh, Lord.
Mamas for DeSantis.
Mamas
to try to, shore up the fact
DeSantis?
that women are especially repulsed by Ron DeSantis. So they're starting this new branch of the campaign, Mamas for DeSantis.
What? Mamas for this? Okay. You don't know the power of the dark side. They're definitely worried about Meatball Ron. He's not looking too good. We'll follow up just how bad it is.
DeSantis, so they can maybe try to bring some women back into the fold, even after Ron recently signed an abortion ban.
Yeah,
here
that's
in the
not
state
going to
of
bode
Florida,
very well.
which of course turned off a lot of women. He actually also recently, just a day or two ago, signed legislation that has pissed off Republican women in the state. He now has Republican women angry with him because he's done away with permanent alimony in the state.
Yeah, I mean, like, you can't expect. This is like the this is like the leopard ate my face meme, right? This is a classic story. A leopard ate my face. A tragedy. They have a lock on the Stepford Wives caucus. Sometimes a candidate can make a comeback. He is still a threat. Yeah, I mean, I've seen it. But I don't think this is one of those times. I would think he's more of a threat in 2028 when there's no Trump. When there is no Trump factor, then I would definitely be a little bit more concerned about him. I mean, needless to say, the guy is a threat. Just because of what he's done on Florida. But as far as like winning like a general election, I would pay more attention in 2028. That would be. I'm pretty sure that even if he loses this primary, which it seems to me, it is more likely than not, he's not going to be the nominee. I don't think DeSantis is going to be the nominee. I just don't see it. Trump is still in play. But I think that like maybe in 2028. He has many years left in the game, yep. There's just as much chance he falls off the map by 2028. Oh, you think so? I mean, like, that would be... I'm A-okay with that, honestly. If that comes to be the case, I mean, I'm all for it. I'm glad if that's the case. If it ends up being the case that, yeah, he just falls off the map in 2028, by all means, please.
Which a lot of these, elderly retirees are relying on. They say that, I would understand it if I was a Democrat, but I'm a Republican and they're not listening to me. That's actually a quote, by the way, from one of these angry women. But they think Casey DeSantis can shore it up. They think Casey DeSantis can go out there and prove that...
I can't believe the leopard ate my face. The vacancy won't be filled by anyone better, though. Yeah, I certainly don't have that expectation. It's more of like preventing these horrible people from being in power, and that's basically where my interest begins and ends with who is the with like the whole like nominee process for the GOP. Basically, like where are we trying to put the brakes on this fascist kind of movement, this fascist train that keeps speeding through? Basically, Kennedy 2024, nah, fuck that guy.
Ron doesn't hate all women, but based on other reports, kind of seems like Casey might be the one with the big ambitions, that she may be the puppet master behind the scenes pulling the strings on Ron, making him do what he clearly is not good enough to be doing. So we'll see. Maybe Casey can right the ship, but maybe, at this point, they're just rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic.
Thanks for watching, everyone, and well, here comes the awkward part at the end of the video where I ask you to like, comment, and share, and subscribe.
RFK is pounding the steroids at the moment. It's so strange. It's just bizarre. Biden just hired Elliot Abrahams. I heard of him. Kennedy wouldn't put that shit. Yeah, Kennedy's too busy like making friends with fucking Roger Stone, and like doing shit with oh man, doing shit with Jimmy Dore and like all those other people. I'm good. Nah, I'm good. I'm good. If you're palling around with like people like fucking like Roger Stone, I'm good. Yeah, guilty by association. Yes, if you're pals with fucking like far right people, I'm gonna have some questions. Yes. If you're palling around with people who have literally spread like the Jewish question, like Nazi shit, then yeah, like if you're palling around with like people that are spreading like Nazi shit, yeah, that's kind of a problem. My problem with Bobby Jr. isn't the people, but his right-wing platform. Yeah, and like the fact that he hangs out with like, I don't know, very questionable people, kind of gives me an idea. Yeah, you can try to like do, you can try to do all these like whataboutisms to try to like make the case for a candidate, but if your case for the candidate is saying that like you have to look at what this other person is doing, doesn't really make any sense, right? Like, I'm sorry, but I just can't do the anti-vax stuff. I just can't do like the like Nazi shit. I just can't.
For more.
I could see RFK making vaccines not mandatory for schools, and that would be disastrous. Yep. Like I would vote in the primary more for Mary. I would rather vote for Marianne Williamson than I would for RFK. Like, I would vote for Marianne Williamson in the primary before I would even consider voting for Kennedy. The depositions will be taken in pursuance to Jonathan Page's lawsuit against the federal government for being targeted by Trump termination of the position. That position will be made by the recent allegations. Oh, is this the two FBI agents? Yeah, it is a bad thing. That's not... It's not that's not a selling point. That's a bad thing. We've had mandatory vaccines for schools for ages, and it's protected us. Yep. Can we get actual primary challengers for a change? That would be nice. That would be nice. Like a more like left-wing challenger in the primary would be nice. FAU polls shows Trump still routes DeSantis in Florida in a partisan split on Disney. This is in Florida, okay? So the reason why this is relevant is because this is supposed to be DeSantis's territory. A poll released on Monday shows Florida, or at least more of his territory than Trump is. Florida is still Donald Trump country, while a partisan split exists over Disney World. The survey by FAU, Main Street Pollcom Lab showed that the former president is still trouncing Governor DeSantis among state Republicans in their duel for 2024 nomination, a 50 to 30%, still that 20-point lead. Almost 1 in 5 Republicans said it's disloyal to vote for a candidate other than Trump because that's the only thing that they can think. That's the only thought process that they have going on here. Curiously enough, Trump's lead appears to have dwindled by 7 percentage points since the most recent FAU and Main Street poll in April, which took place before the indictment on federal charges, concealing and obstruction and return of classified documents and other records. Moreover, DeSantis still enjoys a 54% approval among respondents. Kennedy would defund the MIC. I'm not sure what Marianne's stance is. I don't know. It's like, it's not like I can't just vote on one single issue. And there's no real evidence that he would. Here's a question. How dismantling empire is my single most important issue at the moment. I mean, like, good luck. What's his voting record on like the military budget? Do you know? Since that's like supposedly that's your thing. What is his what is his record on voting with the military budget? Right. Thank you, the Simulacra. Exactly. That's not an answer to my question. That's not an answer to my question. What are his votes on the military budget? And he is a lawmaker. He's a senator, wasn't he? Isn't he? Am I thinking of another senator? No? I think he was the only senator? Oh, then my bad. Just don't listen to me then. The redhead kid lost the primary. Oh, okay. Well, then no, never mind me then. Just don't listen to me. For some reason, I thought he was a senator. What replaces the empire is just as important as replacing it. True. But yeah, like to think that, to be thinking that you're just gonna like immediately dismantle the empire because you elected a president. That's not how that works at all. But yeah, I will take that back. I thought he was a senator for some reason. I never listened to you. Good. Yeah, you shouldn't. That was a really bad one. Okay. That was like a That was a pretty big capital L on my part. I'll take that one. That's fine. You don't vote away the empire. True. There have been no serious arguments as to why anybody should vote for Robert Kennedy Jr. There's just no good reason. But FAU pollster and political science professor Kevin Wagner cautions too early to conclude Trump's support has seen any erosion, or to whether results speak to a data anomaly. Well, I mean, does it though? Because double-digit lead seems to be consistent between Trump and DeSantis. Moreover, no GOP candidate, including former Vice President Mike Pence, scores a higher share of preference than the 7% logged by the undecided category. The bad news in the poll actually is for Florida Democrats. People here anti-war stuff and miss all the crank shit. Yeah, we went over some stories with this guy. Even the most promising president-elect is still restricted to working in the broken framework. Right. Let's see if I can find it. Or maybe it's maybe it's in my Twitter. Maybe it's in my Twitter. All right. Well, I'll find it at some point. I know. Even the most promising president-elect is still restricted to working within the system. Yeah, within the framework. It's been cute as soon as Biden okays cluster bombs, the media is spamming donate to save Ukraine kid commercial. Apparently they need the cluster bombs because they're running out of bullets. Is that hard to make bullets? I don't buy it. I don't know. I think it's that's a bridge too far. That's a bridge too far. Both Trump and DeSantis appear to lead incumbent President Biden by double digits across the state. Governor tops Biden by 49 to 36. Trump, who defeated Biden in Florida by just over 3 points in 2020, holds a comfortable 10-point lead. This is where the rubber meets the road here. Despite the fact that nearly half of all respondents say said that they have an unfavorable view of Trump. So Trump still holds a 10-point lead, even though the majority of people have a unfavorable view of him. These are not the numbers you want to see if you're Joe Biden, Wagner said. Bolden didn't ask specifically which issues voters disagree with the president on, but results simply speak to the state's continued tilt towards the GOP and conservative positions. I think it's pretty consistent with the pattern that we've seen over the state. We've seen in the state over the last couple of election cycles. A clear takeaway to me is that the state has trended rightward in the last few elections, and that's reflected in our data. And the Dems be like, why debate? We got Biden. They would vote for any Republican over the socialist Dem. I think that's how they view it with Trump. Yeah, I suppose. And posed questions about the high-profile battle between DeSantis and Walt Disney shows a fairly even split along partisan lines and reveal an insight about people who identify as political independents. Overall, 35% of respondents said that they strongly back DeSantis, while 33% said they strongly support Disney. Another 12.5% lean towards DeSantis, and another 10% said the same view about Disney. 9% said they did not know. The breakdown among party lines show 81% of Republicans in DeSantis' camp, 76% of Democrats are siding with the theme park giant. Most interestingly was even the near even split among political independents, with 42.2% in DeSantis' corner and 41.8% on DeSantis' side. Wagner said the divide is a reminder that a lot of independents are leaners with fairly ingrained and fairly predictable partisan views. It goes to show you that partisanship has come to define us, even when we try not to let it define us. I mean, people are biased, but okay. Blindly voting blue and red has turned the Overton window rightward for decades. Yeah, I mean, like, you shouldn't blindly vote for politicians. You know, you shouldn't blindly vote because of a party. However, you should also consider, like, what the scenario is and what position you're put in. Because at the end of the day, I think that given the circumstances, if you have a toolbox, if you have a tool in the toolbox, you should use it, right? Like, I'm not gonna leave that tool for the fascists to use. If I can use it too. Money and deregulation has moved it rightward, nothing to do with voting. I mean, that's actually a very good point. With this Texas and Arizona and Florida vote more Republican than Democrats and independents, I mean, yeah. If I vote for a Republican, that doesn't move the Democrats left. True. Yes. The right is scary scary good at weaponizing the irrational fears of some Americans. Yeah, of enough Americans. Can I post a fight? No, I don't give a shit about RFK. Okay, I don't give a shit. Okay, the dude's in outer space. I've already read enough about him. The dude's in outer space. He's living in an alternate reality plane. Okay? Talking wonky shit. I'm good. You vote for the people who legislate and deregulate. Normies don't research, true. I mean, you could disagree with the wonky, like, shit he said, but, like, the fact of the matter is he said these things, he believes these things, he hangs out with questionable people. I don't know what else to say. I don't think any vote of mine has affected Citizens United ending the fairness doctrine. It's a good point. Capital has more influence to the right wing swing than voting does, because that's how voting is influenced, and power influence is done with money. Capitalism keeps the normies so busy worrying about surviving they don't necessarily have the time to be educated about certain things. Not an excuse, just an observation. Yep, policy doesn't reflect the will of the majority, but the will of the wealthy. Yep, that's true. That is very true. Yeah, that's right. Johnny Bananas. It's basically, and a lot of us, have this like weird, people have this weird like Stockholm syndrome kind of deal with dealing with capitalism. And people vote in people that lick wealthy boot. Yeah, because they've been conditioned, like I said, like Stockholm syndrome, thinking that like they'll be the ones, you know? But it's only because, well, the system makes it so. Wealthy people buy influence, so on and so forth. All right, let's take a look at some opinions as to how some Dems, or one Dem in particular, naively thinks about this election. U.S. Congressman reveals why Joe Biden election will not be close. Congressman Ted Lieu, millions of forms of propaganda, it's hard to avoid. Yeah. Congressman Ted Lieu of California's 36th District represents a place that looms large in the American imagination, the Western LA area that's home to Santa Monica, Muscle Beach, UCLA, and other iconic American locales. It's famously sunny in LA, but Representative Lieu's day job in Washington, the weather's always stormy with thunderclaps of censure, lightning bolts of impeachment. Lieu, a Democrat, works in... Okay, I don't give a shit. Yet, despite the divisive machinations in the House and reportedly tepid support of among the electorate for Democratic incumbent Joe Biden, Lieu makes a bold prediction about his party. Yeah, I know. This is why I'm like, all right, I don't give a shit. Lieu makes a bold prediction about his party's political future and about Biden's shot at re-election. It's a virtual certainty, asserts Lieu. A landslide in the making. A landslide. No. Do not delude yourself into thinking that that's how this is going to go. So basically, he's saying that 270 to 268. That's not a landslide. But okay. Lou forwarded some research here by Brent Peabody at Harvard Kennedy School and added his belief. In April, liberal crushed a conservative in a statewide election. Wisconsin was the number one issue about abortion. Joe Biden will be reelected and the election will not be close. The overwhelming majority of Americans are angry at the GOP efforts to restrict a woman's freedom to choose. Yes, but will it be enough to overshadow Biden's failures? Again, it's early in the voters and electoral college make the voting decisions, or is that a mistake? Well, the electoral college is the one that votes. But the point being is that if you think that that's how this election is going to play out, you are mistaken. This election is a lot more close than he's putting it out to be, and thinking that it's just going to be about like, and making this prediction based off like abortion by itself is naive. Lou studied computer science and political science at Stanford as a Georgetown trained lawyer, so he presumably knows how to interpret data, but it's part of the job, a California style optimist. Right, but it's not, you can't just like zero in and pigeonhole yourself into one issue. Do you think that people people were angry and probably contributed to a lot of the reason why in the midterms the red wave didn't materialize as big as it was going to be, or as big as they thought it was going to be? Abortion definitely had a factor, but it's not the only factor. "2024 will show whether Lou's certitude is that of a technocrat who sees the writing on the wall, or whether he's just another California dreamer." Jesus. And even with that, the Dems lost the House. Yep. If only the Dems had codified that, but it's used as something to use to gain votes. Well, yeah, now it's... Now that time is over, though. They had a chance a long time ago and they blew it. Obama had a short supermajority and said it wasn't a legislative priority after getting elected on it as well. Yep. So to think that like this is how it's gonna go is pretty naive, especially when like the polls on the ground state otherwise. Like, politicians suck. Yeah, like if you see the polls on the ground, and if you see like how people are feeling on the ground, you would not be making these predictions. None of Trump's endorsed candidates won in 2022, the midterms, and the U.S. House of Representatives gerrymandered maps. Yeah, that definitely had something to do with it. But we're not dealing with like Trump endorsed candidates. We're dealing with Trump himself versus Joe Biden. My contention is that if you think that this is already done and set in stone, if you think that this isn't even close, that you've got it in the bag, I'm thinking it's very naive. And the Electoral College, which gives the Republicans an advantage. Yeah, Trump versus not Trump is a big difference for them. Yep. I think Biden will beat Trump, but I'm not at all confident. Yeah. I mean, I maintain that it's going to be close. I maintain that it's going to be very close. Now in 2023, correct, Trump does make many mistakes. No election is in the bag. Right, which is my contention with this assessment. To think that this election is going to be a landslide is ludicrous. Is ludicrous. Alia with the 14 biddies, thank you so much. All right, this is a good meme. Tuberville blockade over abortion policy threatens top military promotions. Yep. A Republican is blocking military promotions because abortion. A lone Senate Republican's bid to reverse a Pentagon policy ensuring abortion access for service members is delaying the smooth transfer of power at the highest echelons of the armed forces. Including the ranks of Joint Chiefs of Staff, as a months-long partisan dispute over social policy drags on. Like, never mind, like, the whole thing with, like, the military, but, like, the fact that these people, the supposedly the party of, like, the troops or whatever, is literally holding up, like, the transfer of power among, like, the top leadership of the military, because they want to block abortion access to service members, because they want to fuck over service members, is just wild to me. Tommy Tuberville, a conservative from Alabama, has been single-handedly blocking hundreds of promotions for high-ranking generals and admirals since February, refusing to relent unless the Defense Department scraps a policy instituted after the Supreme Court struck down the constitutional right to abortion last year, offering time off and travel reimbursement to service members who need to go out of state for abortions. Now Tuberville's tactics are on the brink of disrupting the Pentagon's ability to fill its top ranks. More than half of the current Joint Chiefs are expected to step down from their posts during the next few months without a Senate-approved successor in place, leaving the president's chief military advisory body in an unprecedented state of flux at a time with escalating tensions of China and Russia. The Biden administration and Senate Democrats have vociferously condemned Tuberville's blockade as dangerous and misplaced, but while many Republicans are deeply uncomfortable with his tactics, GOP leaders' criticism has been more restrained. Whatever, dude. The Marines don't have leadership currently. I don't support putting a hold on military nominations, said Mitch McConnell. I mean, but you do, because here we are. Told reporters recently when asked about Tuberville's actions that has not been enough to dissuade the Alabama senator or staunch supporter of the GOP ranks who have stood in for him when he was not at the Capitol to press his objections to a policy that has angered the anti-abortion Republican base. The result impasse is beginning to take a tangible toll on the military. On Monday, the first of the departing Joint Chiefs General David Berger, the Marine Commandant, will retire in a relinquish of office ceremony, leaving his current deputy and nominated successor, General Eric Smith, to take over without Congress's blessing. Over August and September, the staff chiefs of the Army, Navy, and Air Force, as well as General Mark Milley, the chair of the Joint Chiefs, are expected to follow suit, leaving the organization with more temporary occupants than at any point in history. So basically the TLDR is that this dude is literally like holding back because he wants the service members to not have access to abortions. Did you hear about the Camp Pendleton thing? I I believe so. I think. Are you referencing the horrible human trafficking case about a 14-year-old girl? A 14-year-old girl was found, and I think one Marine was arrested. But it appears that the Marines might have human trafficked her, which is pretty horrific. Apparently that's the Marine that bought her. Yeah, she was being sold as a sex slave. Apparently that's okay, so that's the guy that got arrested, right? But how did this whole thing come to be? Cuz like all we know is that she was found and one Marine was arrested. I don't know if we know more information than that, right? They found her in the Marine barracks. Don't know much more than that. That's horrible. That's horrifying. I hope all those fuckers, anyone who is involved in that shit, gets what they deserve. That is despicable. Yeah, horrible. Yeah, if we find out more information, we'll talk more. But that's pretty freaking horrifying. Like, how did that girl even get there? It's hard to imagine that that girl got there without some kind of knowledge by somebody in the upper ranks, right? Because it's hard to imagine that nobody knew about this, that nobody knew about this. All right, folks, we've got one. The Marines looked really bad. The investigation better be quick and thorough. Yep. If you can traffic a human being, what else can you get away with? The poor girl. This is despicable. Yeah, but like it couldn't have just happened. Like, you can't just like do that without somebody knowing, right? Especially somebody who would have the authorization to allow that to happen. To allow that to even be a thing in the first place, right? I mean, at least, I mean, that's just my opinion, but like, how? How did nobody know what was going on? That would be rather strange. like some kind of person with enough credentials or enough higher up to kind of either look the other way or be bribed or be in on it. Also, how do you come up with the money to buy a human slave, essentially? I don't know. I feel like there's more to this story that we're going to end up finding out. Because it just doesn't seem like this has happened with this like one person, right? It just seems unbelievable. Buying brides and slaves are cheap in some areas of the world, but in the U.S., but to get it to like have that happen here in the United States inside a military camp, it just seems odd. The world culture moves with people inside the US. Yeah, but like, so nobody knew about this inside the camp Pendleton or whatever? Like nobody knew? Nah, I think there had to have been some kind of coordination. It just doesn't make any sense. It's Army, not Marines, but there's been a lot of mysterious deaths at Fort Hood over the past few years. Yeah. Yeah, and the same goes. Like what? It's hard to believe that all of this, even in that scenario on the other, on that side, it's just hard to believe that nobody with enough like higher up knew or participated or turned a blind eye to it. It happens here, but inside a camp, it seems higher ups knew and looked the other way. Perhaps, yeah, like that. I mean, it just like, like the Simon Locker said, these things, these mysterious deaths that have happened in the other camp, in the other fort, it just seems weird that the higher ups didn't know about it. US does have a human trafficking problem, though. Yep, likely an inside job like the street gangs that serve in the military. Yeah, I mean, it's quite possible. I don't know. Yeah, the Marine. Yes, that's the story we're talking about. I mean, street gangs run inside the military and are overlooked, so why not human trafficking too? Yep. The tea was found in the backs, and an active duty Marine was detained for questioning after she was discovered. A spokesperson for the Senator shared Spartans in the garage a history of running away. Yep. On Thursday, no charges have been filed, but the aunt Cassandra Perez is upset with the Marines and accusing. Yeah, I'm sure that more of this is going to come out. I personally know 2 people who bought child brides in Haiti for $50 in school fees. Jeez. That's pretty disturbing. The military will throw the book at him as to not look like not leading on a rapist, bad optics if they don't prosecute. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that more of this is going to come up. More evidence of this is going to come out. And like, what would be, because like, again, I'm having a hard time thinking that it was just one person. What would be horrible is if there are other people involved and they're not prosecuted, and they just use this guy as like the face. There's a ton of sexual assault in the military. Yep. And they don't get prosecuted. There's a lot of sexual assault in the military that does not get prosecuted. That's true. Militia doesn't have to go to great extent to protect their own. They will if no one is looking. Right, if no one is looking. Although, however, there have been a lot of cases where sexual assault is ignored, or oftentimes the victim is the one that gets punished. Like, yeah, there have been instances like that. Can't remember when I heard it, but the military is an actual draw for sexual predators. Maybe it gives them more power to the victims. Maybe it gives more power to victimize. Maybe. It's a draw to sociopaths in general, like cops. Out case of 99 privateness, bad to kill another private. He spent 12.5 years in prison. Jeez. I met psychopaths while serving in the military, bragged about killing civilians like it really shattered my view of the military. Yikes. Seems like the military doesn't do too much about it. No. Jeez. Well, if we find out, when we find out more details of this horrific case, I'm sure we'll report more on it. Colonel West's presidential campaign deserves the left's solidarity. If we stop despising people who run outside the two-party system and instead took the opportunity to use Colonel West's run as a part of work to build on an independent working-class movement. The activist and public intellectual Colonel West has decided to run for president in 2024. Initially, he said he would run with the Movement of a People's Party, a post-Bernie startup that has been riddled with scandal and dysfunction. It lacks ballot access. West then announced he would be seeking the nomination of the Green Party. Instead, he faces 7 opponents in that race. He is running. He says for the least of these. West is for human uplift at home and abroad, according to the campaign website. He supports canceling student debt and medical debt, expanding Social Security, enacting Medicare for all, ending oil and gas subsidies, banning corporate lobbying, and ending wars. The reception to West's run has ranged from somewhat hostile to condescending. A piece by Johan Jones of MSNBC had the headline Colonel West leftist presidential bid has right-wing DNA. The evidence for West of being right-wing was that West went on Russell Brand's show. West has said he thought DeSantis was right, that the classics are important to study, and West once criticized the writer Tahechi, quotes, not terribly convincing. In one piece, well, now hold on. I mean, like, if you're supporting like a, what is it, like some kind of like religious organization, under the guise of supporting the quote unquote classics, Yeah. I support Colonel West. If RFK Jr. had this platform, I would consider supporting him. Well, yeah, it's certainly better than RFK's platform. I support his move away from the fake People's Party. Yeah. However, I think that I think his judgment is a little off. He's an innocent mess. He's not one political bone in his body. I don't know if I agree with that. In one piece for The Nation, Joan Walsh, already no fan of West, puts it bluntly, West has no business running for president. Walsh's reasoning, mainly bitterness from the spoiler effect of Ralph Nader's 2001, which West supported and which Walsh thinks West should have apologized for. Never mind that Supreme Court decision at hand, Bush the election, the circumstances of the recount were more complicated than just Nader took court's vote. And then there's a laundry list of complaints. West was too harsh on the nation's first black president. Not sure what's so scandalous about a black person criticizing or critiquing another black person. Obama's politics were pretty bad. That's not a good argument. West supports the classics of Ron DeSantis. Beyond Joy Grass West about this, I found his answer pretty reasonable. He simply agrees on the value of the classics. That's not what the article was about, though. West is a narcissist. I don't know about that. I don't think so. West commits to the sin of going to Bill Mayer's and Russell Brand's show. I mean, yeah, I would certainly think that it's a little weird. I think we're past the point of being able to stop people from going on shows whose hosts and audience are members of the opposition. But yes, for the record, Mayer and Brand hold terrible views. These actions, according to Walsh, show West on a downhill spiral. And then the clincher, you will only take votes away from Biden and help to elect a Republican. A few days later, Ben Burgess wrote for Jacobin, the country's leading socialist magazine, that West should run as a Democrat or at least as a Green. Which I agree. From the beginning, I think I think he should have ran to the left of Joe Biden in the Democratic primary. And he should have announced this presidency if he was going to make a statement. If he was going to make a protest candidacy, then he should have done it earlier, and he should have ran as a protest candidate against Joe Biden. Of all the interviews I've seen, Cornel West, he seems like a genuine person, who does have his heart in the right place. Yeah, like, I think that, I don't think that he's a narcissist. He is a messaging candidate, but do we need him to message only in our echo chamber? No, he should be doing it in the Democratic Party. I think that would have more of an impact. Burgess was right to call out absurd Wash's mention of classic issue, which implied that West's convergence with him, DeSantis, on this relatively minor issue represents some sort of lurch to the right. Burgess, while acknowledging the problems of the two-party system and rightfully pointing out that blaming third-party candidates and voters only let politicians out the hook for having to earn votes, nonetheless concludes that West's candidacy is good and that he should thus grab the biggest megaphone available to him as a Democrat, which is basically my position. Another article in The Nation by Didi Guttenplan and Bhaskar Sankara similarly conclude that West needs to run as a Democrat and that because he's not running as a Democrat, he's not a serious man. The authors admit that West could make a terrific, even historic president, but they want him to do it as a Democrat so that his run won't be a sterile exercise. On the debate stage, at campaign rallies and national media coverage, West, with his prophetic voice and moral clarity like Sanders in 2016 and 2020, would accomplish a great deal. They also write, quote, "The reason for West's choice is clear. In our hardly democratic two-party system, acting as a spoiler in a close race is the closest a third-party candidate can come to relevancy. And if Trump remains in a serious contention next year, that is a risk no progressive can dismiss." But but we have to contend with a few critical facts here. First, what debate stage are they talking about? The DNC already said there would be no debates. Second, the DNC cheated Bernie out of one of the most compelling political figures emerging from the left in decades out of the nomination twice. A court dismissed a lawsuit against the DNC for rigging the primary in 2016. The DNC is in no way accountable to the electorate. Is this not evidence that Democrats would do the same thing to a candidate like West? Maybe. I mean, you can expect them to. That doesn't mean you shouldn't grab the biggest megaphone you have. Third, the Democrats will do whatever they must to keep at a truly decent insurgent candidate who might challenge their corporate interests. They call in Obama, who else to gaslight people into voting for Biden. It doesn't matter. West isn't going to win the White House. Even as a Green Party, even as a Democrat. I just don't see him winning the White House. The point being is to take the stage, the proverbial stage, whether there's debates or not, and do your thing. That's the horse race. West is doing what he's willing to do. He might be sidestepping attacks from Dems by doing third party. Maybe, but so be it. We know that the Dems are going to do messed up stuff like that. And when that doesn't work, remember about half of the Democratic voters say Biden shouldn't even be running for re-election, and Biden loses to whichever nightmare GOP candidate is running. Democrats will blame the voters and tell them to vote harder next time, and we'll be back to where we started. Burgess acknowledges skeptics who say in 2020 the Democrats lined up to stop Bernie Sanders, but says that this is an odd argument. But is it odd? I think it's simply evidence that the political establishment will do whatever it takes to stop challengers. For instance, earlier this year, the DNC voted to remove the Iowa caucus as the first one in the primary, replacing it with South Carolina, a state favorable to Joe Biden. Political reported that this move nearly eliminates any path for potential Democratic primary challenge ahead of 2024 by elevating seats that represent the president's base of support. The only way to break this vicious cycle is to decenter the logic of the split effect and fear the enabling right and organize a movement away from the two-party monsters who don't care about interests or ordinary people. Yes, but like the problem here is that we're not really doing that. Really, we're not really doing that, are we? We're not really making, or sidestepping, or doing anything to dismantle the two-party system. We're not really doing that. West tries to ride the fence on many issues, and while that isn't necessarily wrong, I don't think that works in politics. I'm just glad that he got away from the People Party. Yeah. Not a real party, by the way. West has no experience speaking to political audiences. It's absurd. Democrats aren't desperate or suicidal. West won't even provoke any meaningful discourse. The guy is tuned to himself. I don't agree with that. I think that West has a lot, I think, to offer in terms of discourse. But like, if that's the case, if your goal is to be a message candidate, if this is to run a campaign of messaging, why aren't you using the Democratic Party as a vehicle for this? Like, these decisions don't make any sense. Where was this published? The Current Affairs, a left-wing magazine. He's doing what he can to weaken Joe Biden. He knows he has a black voice. I mean, I think that West has support, but I don't know how much support. That's the question. Ross Perot was the last real third-party candidate. He had money, and he still did poorly. But yeah, anyways, we're not really breaking the two-party cycle, are we, with this? You know what helps break the two-party cycle? You know what breaks the two-party cycle? Focusing on building ballot initiatives for ranked choice voting. Do that state by state. He'll probably have a larger bike than Williamson will have running as a Dem. Exactly. As it is right now, you mean? Yes, he is challenging the Dems for assuming that they have the base. They have the black vote and not delivering. He is messaging to Dems potentially. Mean running as a Green. Gotcha. Now, how much will this end up impacting the general election remains to be seen. Probably not much. I don't know. But the point being is, this is not going to disrupt the two-party system. Democrats and Republicans alike absolutely do not want to compete with another party. As Brianna Joy Gray once pointed out on Bad Faith Podcast, if the Greens actually build something off this, it would be good. Maybe. Sadly, Massachusetts ranked choice voting failed last time. That claimed it watered down the votes. Yeah, that's a cheap excuse. That's a shame. That's a shame. As Brianna Joy Gray once pointed out on the Bad Faith Podcast in an interview with Chris Hedges, not supporting the Democratic Party is often equated with enabling the fascism of the right wing. Thus, vote Democrat or else enable the right is an argument fundamentally based on fear. That's not to say the fear of harm from the right is not valid, but we need to look closer at the argument to see whether it keeps us from supporting less. Well, I mean, if Republicans win because of this, then yeah, the argument would be true. We all know the arguments here. Keeping fascists or other dangerous people out of power requires us to hold our nose and vote for candidates we don't like. Yes. I mean, voting for a candidate does not necessarily mean that that's 100% an endorsement of your politics. Sometimes we need to make decisions that we don't like, especially if that's the position we're put in. Noam Chomsky has made this argument. Chomsky has called the GOP the most dangerous organization in human history because of their refusal to address the climate crisis. To Chomsky, the GOP is trying to destroy the prospects of organized human existence. Presumably, we almost always vote to keep the GOP out of power because our existence depends on it. Yes. What do you mean? Yes. Not just with the climate crisis. But what happens when the Democrat in power actually performs worse than the GOP on this issue? Do they, though? That seems a little bit disingenuous. Biden, for instance, drilled more fossil fuel than Trump in his first year of office. More drilling meant more fossil fuel, which means more warming, which means more worsening effect, worsening threat to human existence. So we can still say that the GOP is still more dangerous organization. Therefore, we must vote blue no matter who. Here's a question. Well, yes, Biden has green-lighted fossil fuel projects. How much more environmental damage, environmental deregulation has Trump done and Trump is promising to do? Do you think that Trump will try to promote credits to get more electrification of appliances and EVs? Do you think Trump's transportation secretary is going to try at least to put more resources into electric buses? Do you think Trump's secretary or Trump's Department of Energy is going to invest in infrastructure for renewables? Adolph Reed Jr. has also made the similar argument, telling the story of the coalition that formed to keep former Klansman David Duke out of governorship in Louisiana in 1991. Every non-racist banded together behind the corrupt governor, Democrat Edmund Edwards, to keep out Duke. In this particular situation, the argument is compelling. I mean, yeah. AOC has also made this argument in the fall of 2020 an Instagram live when she urged voters to vote for Biden in order to protect vulnerable people. She said, voting for Biden is not about whether you agree with him. It's a vote to let our democracy live another day. We need to act in solidarity and protection for the most vulnerable people in our society. We've already experienced the violent repercussions of this administration. That's why we need to show up, because if we don't show up, those people, immigrants, victims of police violence, don't get protected. Do you think talking... Do you think talking poorly about Trump is going to do anything? You guys are fucked. Why would you run Biden again? You all need to produce another scare event to have a chance at winning. Yeah, whatever, dude. I'm not talking poorly about Trump. I'm talking very realistically about him. Biden's done a great job protecting vulnerable people. Phenomenal job. Nobody cares about protecting vulnerable people like Joe Biden. But again, what about when the Dems in power are worse than the right on the issue? And 2018 reports noted that Obama, the deporter-in-chief, actually deported more immigrants than Trump, and Joe Biden has continued Trump's cruel family separation policy at the border. Where is the protection for all vulnerable people under Biden? The point is that the GOP boogeyman may or may not be in fact the worst thing to happen to us. The Democrats are so terrible and right-leaning themselves. Yes, but that's not enough of an argument. We understand that they're shitty. Like, my problem with this framing is that we understand that the Democratic Party is shitty. Okay? I get it. But the Democratic Party doesn't present itself as an existential threat to vulnerable people in the same manner, in the same way, and as overtly as the GOP. It's just that simple. The Democratic Party isn't speed running the fascism game, okay? I get that the Democratic Party is shitty. I get that they suck at protecting vulnerable people. I get that they're more interested in protecting capital and supporting capital. I get that. But this framing to make me believe that somehow that, like, you are waving the GOP as a boogeyman, as if it's fictitious. As if it's some kind of, like, fictitious, like, shadow or monster under the bed, when in fact it's not. It's very real. It's not productive to worry about whether something it makes the right go further right. Yeah, I mean, that's why I disengage. I mean, I'm here, but only halfway. Yeah, like, this is the problem. They're gonna be that way no matter what. Yeah, like, the Democratic Party, the Republican Party is horrible. But in a much greater degree, like, the Republican Party, fundamentally is incompatible with democracy. They are actively moving to strip rights away from people. They're actively moving to pass as many anti-LGBTQ laws as possible. Anti-women laws. They're actively working on suppressing votes. And the GOP, well, the GOP doesn't give about, doesn't care about anything except power. The vote blue no matter who argument has merits, but it's hardly foolproof. Nobody ever said it was. Nobody ever said that you're just supposed to vote blue no matter who. It's just not that simple. My cat just caught a baby bird, but he seems unhurt. Oh, Jesus. Well, I'm glad the bird is okay. I just want Bernie. A lot of us did. I voted for him both times. It's often used by Democrats to trick voters into thinking that real change is coming around the corner. No. No. Do not delude yourself to think that just because you voted for the Dems or just because the Democratic nominee or Democratic candidate won that you did the thing. Okay? Like that's just like liberal thinking, right? If you think that you just voted for the Democratic Party and they won and that's it, problem solved? No, that's not how that works at all. AOC and Bernie endorsed Biden? Yeah. So I think the question of how to vote in a swing state in the general election is a separate question that people are going to have to figure out. I'm not here to vote shame anyone, nor should you. But I do wish to point out what an enormous opportunity the left and indeed anyone sick of the corrupt politics of the two parties is wasting on not supporting West's campaign, particularly at the level of organizing. If we're going to adopt a strict consequences-focused analysis, we can't ignore the positive consequence of a left candidacy. Nobody has been disputing this. We know that Bernie's campaign, even though they failed to result in his election to the presidency, were hugely energizing. They trained organizers, they spread a message, and they grew a movement. I wouldn't be writing these words if I hadn't been radicalized by Bernie's campaign. I think about how Bernie fights for someone you don't know. Message is much more inspiring, says Ron DeSantis' dystopian horror movie-esque campaign video, which is all about appealing to people's fears. In terms of enabling the right, there's another consideration put forth by Chris Hedges. The argument that not supporting the Democrats is enabling fascism is false on moral grounds. He says fighting for your values is not enabling fascism. The conditions that create fascism include the rise of Trumps were created by the corporate two-party system. Yes, fine. But to say that you don't have a responsibility to use whatever tools that you have available to you to slow fucking fascist movement, the fascist movement, is pretty fucking, like, cringe, dude. Jesus Christ. There are concerns, this is a very long freaking quote. There are concerns, of course, about how functional the Green Party is and whether it can obtain sufficient we don't have a legal responsibility to vote at all. True, but maybe a moral one. I mean, yeah, that's all we got, because you don't have to legally vote. It's more about what you think, what your ethics and moral standards are, and how to kind of leverage that. Chris Hedges, Jimmy Dore, and Brianna Joy Gray are in chaos and use People's Party and third-party rhetoric to divide the left and their right wing. This is very, very bad logic. What Chris Hedges said. There are concerns, of course, about how functional the Green Party is and whether it can obtain sufficient ballot access. The Democrats, of course, are more than happy to mount legal challenges to keep them off the ballot. There have been reports of the GOP working to aid the Green Party ballot efforts, but this speaks more to the GOP's willingness to do whatever they can to win than a reason not to support the Greens. So, wait. So you're basically admitting that by funneling more efforts into doing this, we'll split the Democratic vote to enable the GOP win. You give the game away right here. Why would the GOP be more interested in working to aid the Green Party? Not that it's bad, okay? The Green Party should have ballot access to all 50 states. Period. Any party that's running elections should have ballot access. That should be a default kind of deal. But like, the GOP knows that this is how it works. But not supporting West simply because he's running as a Green seems unwise. If we can all overlook the Democratic Party's corporate ties and anti-democratic behavior, as opposed to the Republican Party, okay. Surely we can support the Greens despite their weaknesses. Anyone who cares about centering the needs of ordinary people through policy has a way more in common with the Greens than with the corporate Democrats. Maybe the party would be stronger, but it doesn't. Why then make less corporate Democrats and make more progressive Dems? You're just then making the argument that he should have ran as a Democrat, as a left-wing candidate to challenge Joe Biden. Maybe the party would be stronger if more people got involved instead of labeling them as kooks and spoilers. It's also worth pointing out that vote blue, no matter who, has not exactly been an effective strategy to win left legislative goals or to advance an independent working class movement, which should be the goal for leftists and socialists. Yeah, an independent working class movement has nothing to do with electoral politics. Like, in terms of like who you vote for. You can organize to make unions. You can do things like that. As for legislative goals, the Democrats have betrayed left and progressive voters who propelled them to victory in 2020 by refusing to pass the 15 minimum wage that Biden said he supported, implementing a student debt cancellation plan, which is in legal limbo, and have dropped the ball completely on a public option for healthcare. Fair enough. Those are fine criticisms. Joe Biden's tweet said healthcare is a right, but he's not doing anything to make it a reality. Never mind that we're in a pandemic and the movement for Medicare for all has stalled. Fine. That's a fair fucking criticism. AOC recently admitted as much and blamed the influence of the insurance industry. Also true. Even groups like DSA and Justice Dems, groups that are heavily invested in running candidates on the Democratic Party ballot line, as if the party is a neutral device that may be used for any ends, say that they support building an independent movement of ordinary people. Well, when is the time to use electoral politics at the national level to build such a movement? If not now, when? You can do both. Why not challenge Joe Biden from the left? Why not challenge Biden directly? In fact, you can do it every election cycle. Every election cycle at every level. When there's corporate Dems, you challenge them. That's why people like Fetterman won. People like AOC. In 2020, Gray did an interview with AOC. They talked about many things, including having to vote for candidates in elections when there was no good options or voting for the lesser evil. At one point, AOC said the fear is designed to get you to run away from something and it's not a plan. Fear is not a plan. The courage is a plan. Courage is about our future. Yes, she's right. She explained that it takes a lot of courage for someone to stand up and do something as a first person, but that people have to take action because it will galvanize others. AOC has already endorsed Biden. Jeez. What if we thought of West run not as a sterile exercise only in reference to the two corrupt political parties? West himself has said that leaders can act as catalysts for movements. Indeed, we saw this with Bernie and with the elections in recent years of Democratic Socialists all across the country. Yes, and Bernie challenged the Democratic establishment from the left. So what if we thought of West's run as a chance to catalyze the larger independent working class movement? What if West's appeal could be broader than we think? What if we showed as much solidarity for West's third-party run as we have year after year for a Democratic Party that will never serve our interests? These are the questions that we need to be asking ourselves. If we forgo an opportunity to get behind an exciting left campaign, we're resigning ourselves to Marianne Williamson and Robert Kennedy as the only alternatives. But they're not? Why would I... Okay. If we want to alternative to the two parties, here it is. Well, no. There are more ways to do this. So to act as if, like, this is the only way... anyways. Good memes. Alright, folks. I gotta get going. It's almost 8 o'clock. Folks, if you enjoy the content, don't forget to hit the follow button. It really does help us out. We are here Monday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. If you want to help us out even more, make sure you hit the YouTubes. It really does help us out. We are at 243. We are at 243 subscribers. So spread the word. Also, let me grab the cat before we go. I think, if she's there. I think she's here. I'll take a quick look. If she's not, then it is what it is. But let me take a quick look. Look at that. Lovely stream. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. My cat was a bad boy, which he rarely is. He tried to go after that baby bird. Look at this cat. You okay, kitty? I'm like, yeah, you took me from my beanbag chair. That cat has a beautiful face. Yes, she does. Yes, she's a tuxedo cat. If you hit the follow button, you can get her emote. All right, folks. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. All right, folks. I gotta get going as always. Please stay safe. Please take care of each other. Love you all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. See ya! Thank you, Michael Hasser. Thank you, Heat, for keeping the peace in the chat. Thank you guys for the subscriptions, follows, biddies. You guys are truly awesome. Thank you. I appreciate your support. All right, folks, hang tight. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See ya.